Well, the Democrats' continuing harangue against Trump and DOGE and Musk seem to be falling on deaf ears as public support for the work they're doing appear to be unshaken. Meanwhile, DOGE's work continues, and the Pentagon is DOGE's next target. So what waste and fraud can we expect President Trump and Elon Musk to uncover in the Pentagon? Joining us now is Montana Senator and former Navy SEAL Tim Sheehy. Senator, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Before we get into the Pentagon, I just have to play for something for you. This is sound from Senator Murphy, Chris Murphy, from Democrat from Connecticut, about what's happening with DOGE. I just want to play this and get your reaction. Roll tape.
This whole thing is a fraud, right? It's a con. It's a grift, right? From the very start, the Trump administration has been about one thing and one thing only: stealing from all of us, stealing from regular people, stealing from poor people, stealing from the middle class in order to enrich their billionaire Mar-a-Lago cabal.
Senator, after all of the stuff, and I want to use another word, but I can't on TV, after all the stuff that DOGE and Musk have uncovered about waste and just outright fraud and theft coming from the federal government for years and decades, in fact, he's talking about DOGE doing the stealing. Do you think anybody buys that?
Well, you want to find grift, look no further than USAID and where that money was going. You want to find grift? Look at the $40 million a week we've been sending to the Taliban. The U.S. taxpayer has literally been taking hard-earned money from American families and handing it to terrorist groups that want to kill us. So if you want to talk about grift and fraud and theft, I think we've already seen a list exposed by Elon Musk and his team that's shown exactly where that grift is going. And guess what? It's not going to Mar-a-Lago billionaires. It is going to terrorist organizations from the American taxpayer. So I actually walked by Chris today while he was holding that press conference. Couldn't help but chuckle because, this is pure projection. We've seen 4 years of grift and theft from the American people. And the worst theft of all, David, as you all know, is inflation. And when the government's printing money and driving up the cost of everything in life, that's taking money out of the pockets of hardworking American families, and they're sick of it.
I'd only disagree with one thing. It's not just the past 4 years. It's been going on literally for decades, particularly when you're talking about institutions like USAID, et cetera. But for all of their screaming and inaccuracies, the public just doesn't seem to be buying it. Trump's approval rating is 9 points above water, way higher than anybody else. And look at these individual categories: independents, women, Hispanics, Asians, suburbanites. All of the sort of weak spots in Trump's approval, he's above water on all of those individual counts. So are they just speaking to deaf ears, the Democrats who are making a big scene about all this?
I think they're in disarray, David. I think they're still trying to find a message. November 5th was very clear. We won across the board, and the election rhetoric from the left was put him in jail, put all of us in jail. We're fascists, we're racists, we're liars. You know, it was all about character assassination and trying to convince the American people to not believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. And our message was very simple. It was a message about common sense. And it's about to make common sense common again in America. People are tired of looking at expensive gas, $5 gasoline. They're tired of not being able to afford their groceries. They're tired of the crime being brought into the communities by an open border. And what they're seeing with their own eyes and feeling, and their families feeling on the streets, is not good. And what they're seeing from President Trump's administration and from his support here in the Senate and the House is common sense policies that are going to bring down grocery prices, bring down gas prices, and make their streets safe again. And no amount of flailing on the Capitol steps and no amount of posters on the Senate floor are going to take away the fact that Americans understand what's happening to their economy. They understand what's happening to their streets. They're tired of it. They want it to be fixed. And what they're seeing now is warp speed transformation of the U.S. government, the likes of which we haven't seen in generations. And it's not perfect.
Yeah, but it's very simple. I mean, you want to bring down prices, you bring down the cost of government. Because the cost of government, spending money you don't have to pay for stuff we don't need, is what's causing inflation. I mean, that's how the circle works.
Yes, that's what Milton Friedman said. You know, the most important number in economics, as Milton said, was what the government is spending. What share of the economy is the government spending? And as you correctly pointed out just a few moments ago, for decades we have seen that line go in one direction and one direction only, up and to the right. And it's about time we apply some common sense financial metrics back to our economy. And unfortunately, what that means is some severe inward-looking reflection on what parts of our government are working, what parts of a government are not working, and how do we make those parts that are not working work better for the American people, because ultimately they are the customer. And right now, the American government, if it was a business, would have about 1 star on Yelp, because the customer is not happy with the results they're getting, and they want it fixed, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Senator, as for the Pentagon, the president believes, as I think you do, in peace through strength. He doesn't want to go to war. Anybody who's been to war knows you don't want to do that again. But we have a lot of waste in the Pentagon itself. How do you build up a stronger military and separate the wheat from the chaff? Continue to fund and fund new projects for a strong future, but cut back on what's not working.
Well, I could talk about this for an hour, David, but I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. The most important thing in any organization is an obsession with the mission. And the mission of the DOD is to close with and kill the enemy in the event of war. That's their job. And in the absence of that, deter war through strength. And we had a great hearing today with Stephen Feinberg, who's going to be Deputy Secretary of Defense. And the one thing I hope he does, and I think he will do, is reorient our defense acquisition system around the end user, the customer. Guess what? The customer is not bureaucrats in the Pentagon. The customer is the lance corporal, the sergeant, and the captain on the front line fighting the enemy. And that is what's been lost in our military acquisition system. The former Defense Secretary Robert Gates, when he was in office, had a fantastic program where he built bomb-proof vehicles, the MRAP family vehicles, saved my life personally. Great vehicles. And you know what? He acquired those through a non-standard acquisition system, because if he went through the normal acquisition route, it never would have happened. So we shouldn't have to go around a system that doesn't work to get our troops what they need. That means the system's broken. It's time to deconstruct that failed system. It's time for the Pentagon to pass an audit. It's time for us to put the warfighter first and have common sense rule the Pentagon. And listen, CQ Brown has been let go, a great career. He followed orders. President Biden said he wanted climate change and DEI policies at the top of his list. General Brown carried that out. Well, now we have a new sheriff in town, and he has the right to build a team around him that's going to prioritize his priorities. And that's what we're seeing now. And those priorities are readiness to fight a war.
I'm getting wrapped, but the low-hanging fruit in the Pentagon is the DEI programs and you know, the $1,000 screws, that sort of thing. But there are these outdated legacy systems, billion-dollar military systems in congressional districts where they've got really their claws in Congress to continue to keep up systems that have become outdated. How do you get rid of them very quickly?
The specifications process is outdated. The specifications are written. It takes years to over-engineer a system. It's about time we buy things commercial off the shelf. They'll be innovated faster. They'll be ready for the warfighter faster. And most importantly, our innovation cycle will be much tighter, and we'll get the warfighter what they need.
Great stuff. Senator Tim Sheehy, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.